The rotation assist beats 75% of WoW players? 75% of WoW players are getting out DPS by a single button? Oh no. Oh no, is this the end of WoW, guys? Remember, we tested this thing out, and it wasn't supposed to be better than anyone's single button rotation, anyone's full-on rotation, so I don't know how anyone's getting out DPS by this thing. But anyways, here we go. I guess Bellular's got the numbers. Let's see what Bell has to say about the single button rotation beating 75% of the player base. Jesus.
Well, this one's going to be fun. So, the one-button assistant is better than you. Maybe not you literally, but overall, yeah, it kind of is. We've borrowed some of Wowhead's math to do our own, and the result here is pretty clear. Unless you're one of the best players in the game, you are probably going to do more damage spamming the one-button button. So,
oh,
yes,
no.
get ready. This is all a little bit weird, and this thing's very existence is going to sow chaos like we have never seen before. I've got big news for the thousands of you who have joined me.
We're going to raid today. You want to one-button the raid, see what happens? You
that
can.
uses TypeScript. The entire backend learning path is now playable in TypeScript as well as Go. That's kind of huge. And it's funny, Lane's tweet is basically, fine, you win, we've capitulated to the ways of soy because enums. If you're wondering what an enum is and why you should want one, well, this is a good way to find out.
Everybody one-button rotation today.
Well, TypeScript is Microsoft's, to put it simply, super-powered version of JavaScript. Static types, fearless refactors, editor autocompletion, a lot of things that make companies like Google, Slack, and Airbnb trust it in production. It's a really powerful skill. To put a long technical story short, it lets you
guys, if one-button rotation is doing that good, it should be nerfed. It shouldn't be that good. Or maybe WoW players shouldn't be that bad. Maybe that's the real problem here. Oh, God.
Fights, real-time leaderboards, and community. You get to enjoy all of that while you're wiring up databases, building REST APIs, deploying all your stuff to the cloud, and now being able to do that with TypeScript. And by the time you finish the path, you'll have a portfolio that is full of back-end projects, and you'll have the confidence to go in and dual-wield TypeScript and Go on any gig. That's going to look awesome to an employer. And here's the best way to save money. Go to boot.dev/Bellular. Use code Bellular for 25% off. And because 25% of a bigger number is a bigger number, if you do that with the yearly plan, you'll get the biggest saving. And don't worry, because if you don't gel with it, there's a zero-risk 30-day money-back guarantee.
There it is. This is better than you.
Wowhead's class writers did a report on how much of a nerf using the one-button assistant actually is to your damage. And it looks awful on paper. So awful that it probably doesn't look worth it. It's just a sea of red of colossal 20% nerfs.
Right.
You're going to think 20% less damage. I don't want that. And the list.
Right. What he's probably going to get at here is that this is a comparison against the best rotations, right? Like top parses and stuff.
The downsides is 3 times as big as the list of upsides. So at a glance, you might think it's not worth using. But if we look deeper, there is a truth that may be shocking to a few. And that truth is that the one-button assistant is actually out-DPSing heroic raiders en masse.
Jesus.
So here's the deal. Wowhead's report is based on their extensive testing, and all of these numbers are compared to DPS sims. Sims being the important thing there. Windwalker, for example, is at 26% nerf. That sounds bad, but that's 26% nerf compared to theoretical perfect play.
Wait a minute. So if the one button is a 26% nerf to perfect play, and the one button is out DPSing you, that means you are playing at like obviously it would have to be like a 27 or 28% less optimal efficiency than the best of the best rotation. Shit. We all suck at WoW.
That's because a sim makes no mistakes. It doesn't have to handle
We're all
mechanics.
bad at the game.
It is unrealistically perfect. So with that in mind, if we take that 26% and then just take a look at some real-world data, we can see how, accidentally misleading the red color of that red table may be. So here's our methodology. Wowhead's estimates are single target, so let's just take a look at a single target boss. Thankfully, we've actually got one on Undermine. It's Sprocketmonger Lockenstock. Okay, we'll take a look at Heroic, and let's lock the item level to a small range around actual Heroic gear. That basically means we'll get good comparisons from decent players. Now, our first value here is the maximum log DPS for that spec in this item level range, which shouldn't be too far from the sims that Wowhead used.
Right.
The second number then is just the first number, but adjusted down using Wowhead's estimated one-button nerf percentage. So in theory, right, this is what using the one-button assistant can actually result in. And our other values are the actual upper quartile and median damage values. basically what being in the top 25% and the top 50% looks like. Another way of saying that is it's players who have got logs in the 75th percentile and in the 50th percentile. So we got together this data set, and then we decided to compare all of these to see what we would find out. It is sort of rough maths, but I'm confident that it is in the right ballpark, and whenever Matt started putting this together for this video, he could never really have been ready for what he would find out, because it kind of did shock us all. Out of 27 DPS specs, 20 will be in the top 25% of DPS if they use the one-button assistant. A further 6 of these will only be 1 to 5% better, so just about our margin of error, and that leaves 14 out of 27 specs, over half of them, which will be doing between 5 and a massive 20% higher DPS than what's considered a really good player based on...
Now notice they don't have tanking specs on here, because that's real men tank, so you can't one button tanking. That's not going to work. Also, if everybody's doing one button rotation, does that mean nobody's interrupting anymore or anything? Has anybody tried one button rotation? Does it sense a spell going off and cast an interrupt? Or is that not part of the rotation? Which means now everyone's going to watch this video now and start one button rotating, and we're just going to have nobody interrupting anything anymore. It doesn't. Okay, great. Yeah, WoW just got worse. Because everyone's going to watch this video now, and they're going to start one buttoning, and we're going to have nobody silencing anything. Wonderful. No interrupts.
Real-world logs from bosses. On average, players who do 7%
it doesn't use
more
CDs
than
either.
players who get 75 in heroic logs. And if you don't know what that means, I can basically guarantee you one thing. It means a lot of you, maybe even me, a lot of us, will do more damage with one button than we're actually able to do right now, which does seem kind of wild. Now that's averages. When we take a look at the median, it's actually an even scarier story. Now by median we mean the 50th percentile. So one half of players do less damage than the median, the other half do more damage than the median. So on average, the one button assistant could be doing 21% more damage than the median player.
Wow.
That's 21% more damage than most players in the game. Per these numbers, if we were to ignore one outlier, which is the abysmal sub-rogue, the lowest improvement seen is still 10%. The highest improvement is actually the marksmanship hunter, where the assistant, by Wowhead's estimate, only costs 15% of its theoretical maximum damage. Now you combine that with marksmanship having a seemingly high maximum for skilled play, and you see that the end number is, well, kind of crazy.
So marksmanship hunter has really shitty players, is that what he's saying? Like barely anybody is parsing it correctly. So it's a high skill ceiling, which means the one button rotation is just better than most marksmanship hunter players. That's crazy. I wonder if a single button rotation on marksmanship will also pull the boss early, because that would just fit like the theme of a hunter, right? You're gonna early pull.
In theory, it does 37% more damage than the lower half of players. Raising the bar higher, it still does 25% more damage than the 75th percentile. That's an absolutely mad amount of damage for standing still and mashing one button. Some other DPS could be playing their absolute heart out and come nowhere near close to a number like that. Now, even in the weakest cases, like Fire Mage and Windwalker, you're still going to do more damage than the average player, it seems, all just with one button, which of course frees you up to focus on doing everything else right. So basically, there you have it.
Mechanics.
Using Wowhead's hard work and some...
I don't know. Well, it's doing single button rotation make people do mechanics more. I don't know. I think they're just going to stare at the DPS chart and just keep mashing the single button. I think that's what's going to happen. People are going to do less mechanics. Yeah, nope, I agree. I think they're going to do even less. It's going to be even more brain dead than it already is. Yeah, it's not going to be a good thing. So because they aren't engaged, yeah, exactly. They're not engaged in the game. If they're just single button rotationing, they're dozing off. They might be using their other hand for something else, for all we know. They're not fucking raiding.
Overall maths, that is at least our theory heading into this patch. It does indeed seem
they're certainly not
interrupting.
interrupting.
Assistant is better than you. And if you disagree or just don't like hearing it, good news, because there's actually a lot more to this story than just the numbers.
The math isn't everything. Well, look, if they want to nerf single button rotation, it's pretty easy. Just add another maybe second on the global cooldown, because this thing has a global cooldown every time you click it. So they just increase it by a little bit. That'll just drop its numbers off a cliff.
Quite obviously, the maths is just the maths. Some numbers don't have to mean anything. I mean, a big disclaimer is that Wowhead's estimations don't count for gameplay mistakes. In their testing, they used cooldowns on cooldown, often knowing exactly what is best. They weren't, however, real-world combat scenarios that have got maybe mechanics to handle or some forced downtime. They definitely weren't lying dead after a failed mechanic. So getting the maximum results out of one button assistant would still need you to actually play the game properly, do the mechanics properly, which of course is much easier said than done, especially when properly includes things like, say, Warlock, where both Demonology and Affliction players using this have still got to time their big cooldowns properly or risk losing tons and tons and tons of damage. It's also substantially less reliable in multi-target, and in Mythic Plus your class skills will probably matter way more than in Raid. Basically, Raid's quite predictable. In M Plus, you could have a few targets, you could have loads of targets, mobs can live forever.
Yeah, and plus there's just too much variety in Mythic Plus. It could depend on how the tank is pulling, how the healer's healing, which route you're taking. I'm sure single button is much worse off in Mythic Plus than it is in raiding, where raiding is a very, the whole scenario is laid out. You know exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. But I still think if you're being beat by 75%, only the top 25% parsers are beating the single button rotation in raid. That's tough. How is that possible? It doesn't even use cooldowns. They're just getting out DPS by mashing abilities properly, but not using cooldowns. This blows my mind.
Or they could die.
But you guys are ripping me, but we did the test in game. I tried single button rotation versus my regular rotation. My regular rotation was much better. So I don't know how this is happening. And I know I don't parse that high.
In no time. Target priorities can be complex.
Don't understand how
switching depending on what happens, and all of those
is.
factors make the one-button assistant substantially weaker. All that button is trying to do is a simple priority list based on target count, when of course a real Mythic Plus player is going to be constantly recalculating.
Sam is lying. He didn't make it a fair test. I hit the test, the dummy. I hit the testing dummy. What was not fair about it? I literally stood there, did the single button, then I went, flew away, came back, and did my regular rotation, and I out DPS'd it. I thought it was like by 400k or something, if I remember right. So I don't know how this is happening. And I'm not a master of my own rotation. I'll admit it. I fuck around with my rotation all the time, especially because I'm tanking. I just lollygag and do all kinds of random shit. But I don't know how people are getting out DPS by this. Moving towards mobile games, just to play for you. Yeah, that just play for you. Shower. I also think that this is also a play towards console. I think WoW's going to go to console eventually, and what better way to go to console than to first put a single button rotation in so you can easily play on a controller, and then second, eliminate add-ons. Oh, surprise, both are happening. Wow, that's a shocker, right? Yeah, so I think we're going to console. That's the reason why Xbox wants WoW on Xbox, Microsoft wants WoW on more platforms, and that's where we're going with all this. Now you did 2 different locations. Okay, we'll do it again live today. How about that? We'll do it again live today. I'll test it again. My girlfriend leads DPS charts almost always between 8s and 10s. Is she doing? And she only plays Bloomkin though, and she does single button. That's crazy because people are stupid. Well, they must not be using their cooldowns or something. That's the only way I can think that this is working.
Based on like a dozen different factors.
One button is really it's good. Yeah, it's great for people with disabilities for sure. But evidently, this is telling us 75% of people should be using it.
High there. Now, the Wowhead class writers did estimate multi-target loss, but that is way too complicated to boil down into just one percentage number. We just don't have the maths sort of simple enough to be useful there. But this is, right? It is easier than playing properly and learning all of the intricacies of your spec and learning all of the intricacies of the content that you're doing. I mean, if I wanted to embark on a campaign for this, there'd be a very easy tagline: Democratization of damage. And that certainly would rile people up, because this is solid levels of damage in everyone's hands with way less learning curve. It'll basically let them play the game the way that they want, with less stress and causing fewer problems for you, even if you're not using this, because now your teammates are more powerful. So what it essentially is proliferation of power. I guess the best case is that everyone is happy, more people are doing better, so toxicity falls to a new low, and we all get to be happy and achieve our goals.
Well, will it though? If they're not interrupting and doing things properly in a Mythic Plus run, whether or not their numbers are better, everyone's gonna die. So, I mean, that's just... And then people are going to start assuming, well, why aren't you interrupting? Are you single buttoning, you asshole? That's what's going to happen. So I don't know if this is good. I mean, he's right. Baseline, sure, it's going to raise the floor because now, yeah, you can only DPS so little if you're at least using single button. But mechanics matter. That matters more than anything, I feel like.
That's what I'd say if I was
people are
running
gonna
the
do 'em with
campaign
this.
for this. If I was running the campaign against this feature, well, there's another tagline. That it's basically everyone's worst fears about communism. Everyone gets damage without having to earn it. All meaning will collapse. Everyone will fall into pure brain rot, and they will look less like hardcore gamers pushing the limits and more like those people mindlessly hammering buttons at
This is what it
casinos
is.
for hours on end.
They just need to put WoW in a casino and just have one button on the machine, and everyone just sit. That's what's gonna happen. Just smoking a cig, hit that single button. That's us, guys. Oh my god, that's what they're doing. Because the WoW player base is aging. That's what they're preparing for. They're preparing for all of us to become senior citizens, where we just sit all day and just mash the single button rotation in a casino. Talking to our friend, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? You raiding today? Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah, I saw the grandkids yesterday. Yeah, they're playing that damn Fortnite season 43. Here we are doing our thing. Yeah, best game ever. I still play this game all the time. How about you, Greg? Yep, that's good. That's good. How's your wife doing? Oh, she's dead. That's too bad. That's too bad. She'll be here too. Remember when she used to single button rotate with us? That's it. That's what we'll be doing all day. That's our future, boys. That's what Blizzard's preparing for. Oh man, we came full circle. Yeah, back to Vanilla Frostmage. Yep. Grandma Ethel would roll you in a heartbeat. True. Yeah, she would actually, but she's a different animal.
But thankfully, I'm not running a campaign. That would really suck. Neither of those are really going to come true. We'll basically see once the first 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks of logs come out for this patch, and Blizzard's inevitably, balance tweak stuff. I think the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle of those two ridiculous maximums that I just gave out. This will probably help loads of people. It'll probably not help loads of people as well. But that's actually not the only concern. Especially now that we've got some numbers to go by.
What's up, Azanthan? Good morning.
One thing I think we can all get
Someone made a good point in chat about leveling, too. Who was that? Takes time. Yeah, shower. You're right. You're right. Part of learning your spec used to be the process of leveling up, and now leveling is such a quick undertaking. Like, you get a max level character in a couple days now, where it used to take months. And we used to let one level every week, maybe. You'd learn your new ability. You'd spend time learning that ability, learning that rotation. And then you level up again, you get a new one. Yeah, now the whole learning your class via leveling process doesn't exist anymore. You gain so many abilities so quickly, and everything changes so fast. You never really settle into learning your spec. You just kind of fly through it all, and then here you are, cap level. Oh, here's some gear. Take this gear. Go ahead. Now start doing delves. Oh, here's some gear. Now go join the raid. And you're like, you haven't learned anything this entire time. So yeah, you're right. That is part of the problem. Is leveling's become so quick. It's no longer a learning process. It's just a step to get to the end game now. I just buy boosts. Yeah, even better, Jonesy. Yeah, you just buy boosts. You can test your spec and everything before you start a character. Yeah, you can, but I don't know. I guess people aren't doing that. They're just jumping straight in.
This is going to be chaotic, and I think Blizzard are not ready for the chaos this will bring. Blizzard talks about tuning knobs for
She's
classes,
live right now.
and this is going
She's
to be
good.
a
I watched
massive
her.
one that they cannot tweak that easily. So, out of curiosity, we ran some more comparisons. And basically, this is going to screw up class balance pretty majorly. I'll use an example, right? Marksmanship Hunter had the highest maximum in the logs that we looked at. Retribution was second. It was around 2% lower. But Retribution's Assistant is fairly bad, losing about 25% of damage. That means that Red is only strong for people who play it manually. That's just one example, so to find a hint of truth, we compared a few different percentages. There's the first. Percentage lower than max.
I'm down for that,
This is how far
Cadence.
away from Marksmanship Hunter the spec's max is when it's played manually. Then there's the Assistant lower than max, which is how far away it is from the manual Hunter when being played with the Assistant. Then there's this third number, which is how far away when both players use one button. That's the interesting one, because with our Red example, it's 2% weaker manually. If the Red player plays with one button, then they'll be 27% weaker. But if both players play with the Assistant, Red will only be 14% weaker. You see the difference there?
No, I'm not understanding what he's saying here. Assist percent lower than assist maximum. So is this the difference between a good player and a bad player? 13%? Is that what he's saying? Percent lower than the max, percent lower than the assist, percent lower than the max. What? I don't know. I missed it. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. What was he saying here? Okay.
Weaker manually. If the Rat player plays with one button, then they'll be 27% weaker. But if both players play with the assistant, Rhett will only be 14% weaker.
What? Sam somehow passed the bar exam. Listen to him again, Sam. I still missed it. If both players, who are the two players? The heroic player and the mythic level player? Yeah, I'm not getting it. It's comparing Rhett to Hunter. Oh. Well, are all these comparing what? Is it? Okay. That's fine. I guess the math is sure. I'm sure.
You see the difference there? That's going to be weird for Blizzard. These are three entirely different balance concerns, all depending on the one-button assistant being used. So how are Blizzard going to manage that?
So he used Hunter as the highest, because Hunter was the highest used as the baseline, then it compares everybody to that? Okay.
And it gets weirder as well.
Law degree from
Richard
DeVry.
Warlock is around 26% weaker than marksmanship when both are manually played.
Yeah, so that's why this is at 0%. Okay, that makes sense. So he's comparing everything to baseline, the best comparison, which is the one that had the highest average upper versus lower. Okay, got it.
But if both use one button, the gap gets narrower. It's only 23%, and that's because Afloc's assistant is better. Basically, the numbers are all over the place, and one-button assistant makes it even more complex. Now, for you and the game, this basically means one thing. Deciding what to play got more complicated, even if what you're looking for is something that is more simple to play. And I know that sounds wild, but that kind of is the upshot of this video. Imagine, for example, being a guide writer. Reporting on what's best to play is just going to get weird as hell here. I mean, you need tier lists, right? Tier lists are a thing, but now we're going to have tier lists for playing manually and tier lists.
Well, now you have a difficulty list, right? That's what you're going to have now. So these class writers will be able to say, well, what's the most difficult class to play in the game right now? In terms of DPS, Marksmanship Hunter is the most difficult. And then it follows up with, Rhett Pally, and then everyone else follows there. So that's where it was, 13%. Actually, yeah, the smaller the number. So the next would be Augmentation Evoker, would be the next one, and then you'd have Unholy DK after that. So the bigger the number, the easier the class will be considered to be. That's how this works. I'm assuming.
But now we're going to have tier lists for playing manually and tier lists for playing with the one-button assistant. And you know that it's just going to get weirder, right?
It is going to get
Players
weirder.
will get weird. I mean, in the worst cases, you could have players who will be hyper-vigilant over who's using the one-button assistant. I wouldn't be surprised if we perhaps get a few
finger users
Maybe
only.
ones that measure time between player GCDs and then sort of, snitches out, oh, this person's got the one-button assistant GCDs. They're using the cheat. Maybe a weak aura that reports people for playing with one button. We'll have other bizarre things in
Guess you can
Buildcraft
get rid
as
of your
well.
Naga mouse.
We'll now have people Googling what's the best.
Well, Razer should just make a new mouse, right? I have the same thing. Mine's not the Razer Naga right now. Mine broke, so I have this random red dragon mouse. It has all the keyboard on the side, right? Now we'll just have one giant button on the side, and that's it. You just smash the shit out of it. That's how we can play now.
One button talent build for whatever their spec is, not just what is the best build. And as we go deeper, the situation just gets more and more goofy, right? So imagine someone's playing the one button flavor of the month, but they're actually playing manually and they're getting attacked for underperforming. That's a goofy situation that could now happen. Maybe they might be told to play the easy way because they're just trolling if they're playing the best one button spec but not using the one button rotation. Just strange stuff. Or maybe someone's playing the real flavor of the month, manual, but they're actually using the assistant. And the assistant for that spec or build happens to be awful, so they'll basically just get
They'll be
kicked.
shit.
It's going to be weird. So hopefully,
what a time to be
Blizzard
alive.
have done the work preparing for whatever way this ends up going. If nothing else, I think the War Within's last season is going to be very interesting to watch.
Interesting indeed. I wonder how this is going to affect the game. I still think people raiding with this is going to be a weird undertaking if people decide to do that. Mythic Plus, for sure. I don't think this is viable for Mythic Plus. One thing that I'll say, I just dicked around with single button rotation was when I was streaming and I was running delves, right? Because it's so mindless. I was chatting with you guys and I wasn't paying attention. I was like, you know what? I'll just click this button for a little bit. And that was the time I was using single button. Besides that, I tank in the game. So single button really isn't viable for me anyways. But I can't imagine, like, even if I taunt and try to do my cooldowns while single button and rotation, like, is that really the way to play? I don't know. I think Blizzard will probably end up nerfing this a little bit, unless they want it to be this strong. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Interesting numbers here, and a cool video from Bellular.